Hey everybody, this is Jack Allwild with another Money episode. We have our first returning guest, Residential OG. He is at Residential OG on Twitter or X. Go give him a follow. He just posted a pretty cool video of his first eviction, so pretty entertaining to watch, and hopefully people appreciate what us landlords go through.
Yeah.
So Residential OG, welcome back.
How's it going, man? I'm glad to be back. I'm excited.
Yeah, good. I'm excited to have you on too because you brought up some Section 8 topics, or you touched on Section 8 in our first interview, and I wanted to have you back on to talk specifically on Section 8 and why this might be important going forward. First off, what is Section 8 and how did it get started?
Yeah, so Section 8 is I guess, government program where they have a extremely long list of tenants who have some type of troubled background, trouble with finances, whatever, where they're basically going to cover a big portion or all of that tenant's rents. And in exchange, they basically sign a separate contract with the landlord that states that they're going to cover, X amount of the rent. And it's really exploded over the last handful of years. I know the waiting list, at least in my area, is like 10 years, I think I heard someone say, to get your voucher. So it's a huge program and it's really been exploding.
So you just touched on a voucher. So what is that voucher? What is that? How long does that last? What it actually is that?
Yeah, voucher is the slang word for, I guess it's not even the slang word, but it's just knowing the language of Section 8. If whenever I talk to someone on Facebook Marketplace or a potential tenant, the term they use is usually a voucher. I have a Section 8 voucher, and that basically means that they were given a packet, an RTA packet, a voucher, and that is their way of showing the landlord that they're actually legitimate and are signed up with the program and the program is ready to work with them. So if they have a voucher, you know that they're actually approved for the program.
Okay. Now, can you talk a little bit about, so to get approved for the voucher, what type of incomes are we looking at? What types of people are trying to get these?
The income varies. So I don't know exactly. They all have different income. So every Section 8 tenant I've ever had pays a different portion.
Okay.
Some of them it's, 50-50. Some of them it's zero. And then a lot of times it fluctuates while they're actually in the unit. If they get a job while they're in the unit, they might be paying 0 1 month, and then the program finds out that they're working now, doing a little bit better, and then the program scales them back. And obviously, there's people listening might think there's a little bit of an incentivized not to work, right? Because once you work, the amount that the government covers actually lowers.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because I actually after I talked with you the first time, one of our properties that the guy's been having trouble paying, I was like, can we look into Section 8 for this guy? And they actually said his income was too high, but he's like paying sporadically. And yeah, it caused, you'd almost think he's better off working less because then he'd have a better shot.
Yeah, man, it's crazy to think about, especially when you look at the lower income people, poverty, close to the poverty line. Let's say you're working at, 7-Eleven or something like that, and you're just above the poverty line, and you're putting in 40, 50 hours a week, you're grinding, and a person who is doing less is basically living the same lifestyle as you. And there's definitely some incentivization issues with it. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who the program really just helps them out. Like inflation's up and the program helps people who are actually really, really do need the help. So it's case by case.
Yeah. So from a landlord perspective, an owner perspective, do owners have to apply for Section 8? How does that work?
No, it's all about the tenant. The
Okay.
tenant is the one who has to apply. They have to go through the waiting list. They have to submit everything and get approved. It's just up to the landlord to choose who they're going to rent to, really.
Okay. And are there any types of inspections that are involved?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a lot of those. Yeah. You're gonna get used to inspections if you do Section 8. 100%. You're gonna start knowing the inspectors on a first name basis.
Okay.
Because the way the program works is it's an annual inspection every year. When the tenant gets placed, there's a inspection. It has to meet all of these requirements. It has to be up to code. And then annually, it's the same exact thing. They come back every single year and they'll constantly inspect your property to make sure it's up to the government standards. That's another thing that I'm glad you brought up. I don't know if we're going to get into it later, but when you hear terms like slumlord or rundown properties with Section 8, that is not true. You can't. There's inspectors that constantly hit your property. If anything, a Section 8 property is going to be more up to code than one that isn't Section 8 because there's more inspections involved.
Can you describe some of the things that the inspector might look at that you like maybe didn't think about that like it would pass, but it didn't?
The number one thing is going to be peeling paint.
Okay.
I would say windows are another big one. A lot of people, well, now you want to have like the double hung vinyl windows, but in older houses, there's a lot of wooden windows and there's a lot of issues with that. Everything has to open and close correctly. Everything has to lock. Fire alarms, CO2 detectors. It's basic. It's a lot of that stuff. Lights. I know I'm saying the most basic things. I'm kind of blanking. Like flooring, carpet, plumbing has to work. They check. They'll turn everything on to make sure there's no dripping. They basically just do a full on inspection of the property and make sure that everything is up to par.
Okay. In terms of your portfolio, what percentage or how many units are under Section 8 right now versus not on Section 8?
As of today, I would say 30 to 40-ish%.
Okay.
I think that's about right. 30-40%. During COVID, it was much higher. It was definitely higher during COVID. But right now it's bubbling around 30-40%.
Like what are some of the questions you're asking yourself, whether on like, should I try to place someone who's Section 8 in this house? Like what types of things go through your head? Like, is it, I could just get more rents just in the open market? Like what types of things are going through your mind?
It depends how the listing is doing, really.
Okay.
That's like the first thing. And two is the back and forth with the program. So number one is always going to be demand. Like I have certain houses that are just, they'll get hundreds of hits the day I list them. They're in the right spot or the pictures are good, whatever. And then with Section 8, there's some back and forth. That's the other thing. A lot of the people who post about Section 8, they'll go on HUD user and they'll do the fair market rent standards. Have you seen that website?
I have not.
Okay, huge tip. If you go on huduser.gov or huduser.org, it's one of those two. They have a website where you can look up every single state, every single county, and it'll show you exactly what they pay for their rental standards per bedroom.
Wow.
Any county. And by the way, Section 8 is by county, not city.
Okay, by county. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
And on HUD user, let's say it says you're in whatever, Scott County, you're in whatever county you're in. And 3 bedrooms, they pay $19.55. That's what they pay or whatever. It's not that black and white. You actually do have back and forth and can negotiate on the rents, even though there is like a rental standard.
So is that 1900 or whatever number you just threw out, would that be like the max they'd be willing to do, or can you actually get them to go above that in certain circumstances? Above. Okay.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how much I want to say, but you want to, when I submit, I submit high,
Uh-huh.
because the only thing they can say is we're going to have to lower that.
Yeah.
But you don't know how packed the program is. They might really need to get someone in, and I guess we can do 2150. I guess we can do 22. I guess you see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
If not,
Okay.
they're like, the best we can do is, the actual standard on the website.
Gotcha. And
So
then
that's
it's
a huge
uh-huh.
play. That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing of who you're going to rent to. And the other thing is, I don't want anything to get put out of context where it's as if I'm exploiting something. You go through so much more with Section 8. You are taking on way more of headache with the inspections. It all equals out. Let's say you do get higher than market rents because you're doing Section 8. You're gonna the extra profit you make is gonna get eaten up in the expenses it takes to pass the inspection.
Interesting.
It equals out in
Did you
most cases.
do they actually charge you for the inspection, or is it really just the maintenance to pass the inspection?
No, they don't charge you to show up or anything. It's not
Okay.
like, hey, it's $45 because we're here.
Uh-huh.
They
Okay.
just charge you. Well, you have to pay contractors. Here's the second thing: opportunity cost. It's going to take time for your contractors to complete the work, and it's also going to take time to get back on their schedule, because they're not instant. They're going to schedule a week out, 2 weeks out.
Uh-huh.
If he comes out and you think you're good and he says XYZ problems, there's 4 problems, I need you to fix them. You pay a contractor, boom, boom, boom. He says, well, I can't get out there for another 10 days.
Yeah. Okay.
You lost the 10 days of opportunity cost that you could have got a different tenant in who was ready to move in that day.
Uh-huh.
That's why they have to pay more. It's totally fair. It's totally, that's how that's how it is. It all makes sense. And then get this, say he comes out again 10 days later, and you're like, yes, we're finally good. Well, now it's a different inspector, because they don't send the same person.
Got different eyes.
Well, his eyes saw 4 different problems at the first set. So now you're 25 days out. You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And that's part of the game. And that's why the rent is higher, because if they didn't pay higher, who would do this? How? It wouldn't work.
Yeah. For like the mechanics of the payment, is the government actually sending you, the landlord, a check, or is it going to the tenant first? And is there some sort of moral dilemma here with the tenant maybe?
No moral dilemma. No
Okay.
moral dilemma.
Okay. So from that perspective, the risk might be lower because the government's directly sending you a check.
I've heard a lot of stories. If the money went straight to them, I'd have heard 10 times more stories. I guarantee you that.
Okay.
The check goes right to you. You can either get it in a check form, or you can get it direct deposit. And when you're plugged in with a county, it's super nice because they send it like an itemized invoice, where if you have 10 tenants in that one county, boom, they send you one payment.
Oh.
They email a receipt breaking down how much they paid for each tenant, and it comes in before the first or right on the first.
Okay.
Which is amazing.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of brought up that their percentage could change over time depending on their income. Mm-hmm. How, from your experience, the people that are in Section 8, how many of them actually like migrate out of Section 8 versus just stay there? Because I would think they'd want to stay.
There's no migrating out.
Okay. Okay.
From my experience, maybe they have, but there's getting kicked out. That's much more common.
Uh-huh. Now, what would it take for someone to get kicked out of Section 8?
Eviction, massive collections. I had a situation where someone was committed arson or was an arsonist and started a fire. And all of these things can affect your ability to keep your voucher. And again, this is such a good point to bring up. The voucher is extremely valuable. That's why there's a 10-year wait list. They don't want to lose their voucher. Who would, right? I wouldn't want to lose a voucher if I had one. And that is kind of leverage of this idea that all Section 8 tenants are really bad, or there's a stigma. It's like, no, because if they're bad, they lose something that they waited 10 years for, and they lose their ability to have their rent covered. They're going to be on their P's and Q's. And then you get the outliers where, of course, there's some people who they genuinely just don't care so much about anything that, like, there's those type of people who just, it doesn't matter what opportunity you give them, they're going to smoke it, you know? And those are the stories you hear about.
So what's actually restricting them from just giving more people vouchers? Like, is it something that would have to pass some, or like who
you mean the government?
Yeah, like who manages the number of vouchers? It's just,
I think, I don't know. So I'm not going to speak like I'm an expert. But from my experience, especially during COVID, there's certain funds, there's certain X amount of dollars are distributed to this, no pun intended, section. Like during COVID, we would talk to programs and they had X amount of dollars that were given to them for relief, for help. And it's basically, that's kind of different. That was COVID relief. But Section 8, I actually really don't know how they do it. I know it's expanded. Same with food stamps. During COVID, all of this stuff, man, it expanded. Yeah. Whatever it was, there's now more of them. It's kind of slowing back down now, though, I will say.
Okay. Well, as we wind down, as we close it out, what else do you think the audience should know about Section 8?
What should they know about Section 8?
Or where might they want to start? I mean, should HUD user be the first spot they go to?
I think HUD user would be the first spot they go to. I think you should get a rental calculator. I have one for free on my website. You can find them elsewhere, and start to underwrite properties and use that HUDuser.org or .gov, whatever one it is, as your baseline for rent, and start to underwrite properties. The second thing, you definitely do want to know someone in the business or talk to someone, because I'm just thinking from my experience, if I didn't have the people who helped me or showed me, I have no idea how I ever would have got here. There's no way. It's also kind of a tough business. You want to have people that you can associate, even if it's just through Twitter, like DMing me, DMing you. You want to have some people that you can talk to about it. The other thing too that I want to say is, I think that I wanted to bring up a point that I tweeted about and made a video about. I think people really should take a look at immigration that's going on right now, and how many people are flooding into the country, specifically Class C. Because where are these people going to live? They have to live somewhere, right? And we already had a housing shortage before. And everyone was saying population's declining, people aren't having as many kids, blah, blah, blah. We already had a housing shortage with the population declining. Now we have a flood of people, and there's still a shortage. All these people have to live. They're real people. They have to live somewhere. And I'm extremely high on Class C residential real estate. I think across the real estate board, Class C is where it's at, because rents are going to continue to push up in these lower areas, higher than you would ever expect for some of these houses. And Section 8 is going to have to compete more and more and raise rents higher and higher. As much as people are saying housing is unaffordable, it has to come down, I do not think that's true for Class C. I think rents are going to skyrocket.
Awesome. Well, Residential OG, where can people go to connect with you, find out more about you, where do you want to hand them off to?
Yeah, the best place to go is going to be my X account at Residential OG. It's the same on YouTube. I think I'm going to make a TikTok. I think I'm going to be across all the platforms. The second thing that I wanted to mention is I created a website, residentialrei.com. And right now that's on there. It's just completely free resources. It's the rental calculator I use, flipping calculator. It's all of the fancy Excel spreadsheets. And I'm going to continue to put out information in video and blog format on that website. And that'll be the main resource for everything that I'm doing, and like house hacking, Section 8, all that stuff is going to go on that website in the future. So residentialrei.com.
Awesome. We will definitely put links to those. Thanks
Awesome.
so much for chatting again.
Yeah, this was awesome. I appreciate you having me.
Yep. Take care.